Save.
Chill 5. Joe, please.
Banana. Yes, it is. You're correct.
Well, it's still recording, but it's not.
Oh.
Set.
Yes. Similar. They're adjacent.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're not actual Shure SM58s. They're cheaper versions. These are what's provided to the hotel.
Hell.
We'll have time for Q&A.
In fact, we'll have lots of time. The most time. Hopefully.
That's up to Anthony. Here we go.
Sound lab, right?
Yes, sir.
You're in the right. You're in the right laboratory.
No, it's all
You are.
Cool. That coffee's for you.
Are you using that mic?
No. That's. I guess I should use this one.
Okay. Joe, kill 2 and bring back 3. Please. And bring back 1.
Hello from all the way down there.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, do I write my name on this?
Yeah.
Is that the goal?
Right name, socials, whatever you want. We are live on the stream, but we got 3 minutes to start. Perfect.
Having a good con so far?
Yeah. Man, I didn't think I was going to make it here. I was at the Westin just now.
Oh wow!
Jeez,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a marathon.
That's the trek.
That's
That was.
the Weston Sprint, the Weston 500.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of adjacent paneling from digital media to gaming too. So a lot of
Right,
people
yeah.
have to make that trek.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
You don't have a adapter.
Ooh, but I do have it adapter for the USBs.
Well, for HDMI, if we're gonna. Or
I'll
we
try to.
run off. Oh, we just run off Anthony.
Yeah, so I'll try to.
Wait.
Yeah, if you did have an adapter, we'd just do a hot swap and see if we can make it work. I know it's kind of like a last minute ad.
Why not? No.
Nice.
Look at that.
It has HDMI,
Perfect.
There we go.
and it can fit on either side. Truthfully,
All right.
Do you have Logic on there?
I do
Sweet.
so much.
That's the only one I don't have.
I have
here.
Logic and Reason.
You're way more logical in reason than I am.
I'm an audio atheist.
Dos minutos. Would you like water?
Sure. I'm almost done. Thank you.
Put me on the skeptic track because I use Logic and Reason.
That feels
Actually,
like
200% skeptic track, please.
I was gonna say that feels like an oxymoron.
It's both an ox and a moron.
Done.
That's.
I'm excited. There's some fun stuff on the skeptic track this year.
I'm skeptical. Bad
That's the
jokes.
Oh,
point.
wow.
Every day.
This is being recorded, you know.
Yeah.
I love the skeptics track. Still recorded, right?
Yep. Still recording and screaming.
And streaming. Okay.
And screaming.
Screaming.
I'm making bad dad
Screaming
jokes. I
maybe-
enjoy the
screaming
track.
is optional.
All right.
Kick this off. Don't forget the readings.
The reads.
The readings.
The
Same
read.
things.
What front or do it?
Do it the front.
That one Norman.
Thanks. Let's go ahead and start. We're already live. 1 minute won't kill us.
Welcome, friends. Welcome to Sound Lab.
Dun, dun, dun. I should have set up a soundboard.
Oh, that would have been better.
Very small round of applause.
For next year, we'll set up a soundboard. No, is everybody here to learn a little bit about setting up audio for your streams, for your recordings, for your podcasts? Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Show of hands. Who has never set up a sound system before?
And
Cool.
that includes like plugging in a mic.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Heck yeah.
We're gonna go over a lot of different things for newbies and for advanced folks alike. But first, let's go ahead and talk about our track sponsor. Our track sponsor for 2024 is Zakat. There's a banner over there. For over 22 years, they've been empowering lives through disaster relief, distribution, orphan care, and more. That's food distribution, sorry. Their top-notch ratings from Charity Navigator and BBB Wise Giving Alliance means your contributions are going to make a difference. Either scan the QR code or go to zakat.org. Also, if you're familiar with Dragon Con, we have a charity every year. The 2024 charity is the Arthritis Foundation. The number one cause of disability, arthritis affects nearly 60 million adults and hundreds of thousands of children. Dragon Con matches up to $125,000. Last year, the con raised $272,000 for their charity last year. So you can either use the QR code down here to donate, or you can go ahead and bring your loose change in the bucket here. Help get to that 125 so Dragon Con can make that match. Now, who's ready to learn about audio? So we'll talk about us. So we're not just a bunch of random dudes up here who don't know what they're talking about. My name's Anthony Vito. I am the moderator. You can find me at Anthony Vito _ at most social media. I've been a podcast producer for 7 years. I've worked on over 1,600 episodes across 50 plus shows in the public and private podcasting spectrum. And I'm also an operations manager for the University of South Florida, and I deal with sound.
Cool.
I'll let my panelists talk. Let's start with Tony.
I am Tony Sorecchia. I have been podcasting since 2011. So old school. I would have killed to have a panel like this back in the day.
Right.
Um,
That's why we're here.
yes, appreciate it. Right now, most of my stuff, though, I have now kind of moved more into the writer space. And I have other people do all the heavy lifting that you guys would do. I'm at Tony the Scribe on almost every social media platform that's out there. So that's where you can find me. And I have ribbons if you're a ribbon type up here.
Ooh.
Nice. My name is Scott Moore, aka Groove is for Life. I'm a long-time AV technician, audio professional. I've been doing audio for, I think, going on like 15 years now. I've lost count. I've done everything from hotel AV, live sound for concerts. I've done audio recording for film and TV. I've run audio for audio drama, Blood Crow Stories,
Nice.
where I was basically the audio director for that podcast. And now I'm a streamer. I stream at on Twitch at Groove is for Life, where I mostly stream music or computer RPGs.
Heck yeah. Quick round of applause for everybody else. I'm talking so far. I'm excited to be up here with y'all again, because I think I've had panels with all of you all before, and this is a good crowd. My name is Gabriel Perez. I am an audio engineer and sound designer and composer for some things. I've mostly worked on the Quid Pro Roll podcast, which is an actual play podcast where all the players are professional GMs. I do the music and sound design for that. I also work at a video game studio producing a VR, what's that game? Like Skyrim, like VR Skyrim. So look out for that. It's coming. Lots of fun sound design in there. And classically trained musician with some stuff. So there's like a little bit of trauma there, but it's fun. And I'm just excited to talk about like tech stuff, because especially, and I hope this can kick us off in the right direction, because last time I had a panel up here with Anthony and several of these other people, I was like, I don't know a whole lot about like insert string of letters and numbers this microphone, or insert other string of letters and numbers microphone. And I'm like, yeah, sure, that's a mic.
SM58.
Right. right.
SM57.
Oh man, look out. And now I've actually had to learn it for my for the video game job. So I've learned a whole lot this last year, and I'm ready to talk about things and also learn more.
SM57 or no?
So
SM7.
pass it back over to
I can go on.
So fantastic. So the first thing I want to do a little bit of a pre-EQ, just more of a show of hands. So who has questions more about microphones or hardware? Give me a hands up, raise up. Cool. What about software? Anyone want to talk more about software? How to do software? Does anyone more want to talk about recording for podcasts that you're going to distribute later? Hands?
Who here?
Cool.
Who here has a podcast
It's even better.
or is planning on
Or audio
starting a
drama.
podcast?
Yes.
Or a stream?
That's the next one. Who does live streaming and does that end of the world? Fantastic. Live streaming. Perfect. So we'll go over kind of a little bit of everything. And at the end, we'll do some more Q&A. Within an hour, there's a lot that we can try to do. We just want to try to get a nice setup from start to finish. So the first thing you got to do is hardware, because you got to talk into a microphone. We've all had that podcast we listen to where someone's just talking to their laptop mic or talking into their AirPods, and you go, wow, I can hear everything around you. So we want to try to be a little better and more directional. So as we talk about hardware, let's go ahead. You were talking about the string of numbers and microphones here.
Yes.
Let's talk about what type of microphone we are talking currently into right now.
So these microphones, they're not exactly SM57 or 58s, which are kind of the industry standards, but they're basically the same thing. These are dynamic microphones.
Write that down.
Yeah,
Take
they're
notes.
heavy duty.
There will be a quiz.
Good sound rejection. If I shift away from the mic, you can't hear me. If I'm in front of the mic, you hear me really well. You see these at live shows all the time. You know, live concerts. You see them at every panel here at DragonCon. That's really their bread and butter is live stuff. If I could drop this on, I'm not going to do it because I don't like it, but I could drop the mic right now and pick it up and it'll be fine.
Yeah, dynamic mics are really good for being durable, because they have like a really small little like diaphragm setup, and it's very securely held in there.
Yeah.
So that's why, again,
And they typically require a lot more gain,
just
which
don't
is
drop your mic, please.
yeah, please don't. But they typically require a bit more gain, which is just basically electrical energy.
But that's actually a great, just really quick, like the difference between volume and gain. I'm sure we'll get more into that in this, but just as a very, very baseline reductive concept of it is that the gain is the amount of energy you're putting into the mic, and the volume is what it can do with that energy, kind of thing.
So one way I like to think of it is if you think of a fire hose, right? Or just a hose in general. If you're turning up the hose, you're turning up the gain.
Like the spigot.
Right.
That's good.
And
That's
then
good.
if you've got one that's got, like the attachment, the spray attachment, that's how much volume you're letting out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
as
spin
you
out.
raise the
Dude,
volume,
crushed it.
you're letting more of that air pressure out. But if you let too much, that's when you get feedback and all sorts of, you get a lot more noise. So if I, hold the hose down, I can spray everybody, right? But if I have it lightly, then I just want to get like a little bed of flowers or something.
Yeah.
You can kind of see I have this. We'll do an example over here. This is a waveform. And as you see, it's what we call a bunch of gain. We're overgained over here. That's going to cause distortion. So we want to make sure we don't do that. So that's when we'll talk about level and gain structure.
Generally, you don't want to do that, but you can use that as that effect as he just showed right there. If you want to get a deep voice of God type thing right there.
Oh, yeah. That's good. That's me getting the sound design. Okay,
Yeah.
so dynamic microphone. There's two main types of microphones that we talk about. We say dynamic. Like you said, I have to be really close to it to get this. The good example about the good use of dynamic is that if I'm over here, you're not going to hear anything, which also means you're not going to hear as much room noise, right? So that's the good thing about dynamic. We also have what we call condenser microphones.
So this is a large diaphragm. It's called a large diaphragm condenser because it's hard to see. You guys can come up later and see it, but there's a very large diaphragm in the middle here. These are a lot more sensitive microphones. They're typically used on vocals, singing, sometimes instruments, stuff like that. This one's an AT2030. AT is just Audio-Technica, and then 2030 is the model. Again, you'll see these in vocal booths more often, especially soundproofed booths, because they do pick up a lot more. They do pick up a lot more of the room tone.
Yes.
So
condenser microphones are great when you have treating. So you want to talk about, because you do audio
Right.
books.
So with audio dramas, we love these. We were actually in the beginning of Harry Strange. We weren't in a booth. We were in a conference room. But the ones we had, the P120s, were super directional. So we were able, much like this, if the actor wasn't right in front of it, you didn't hear what was
Let's
running on
watch
the
it
site.
in real time.
Yeah, right. So, okay,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, that's no worries.
Okay, so you saw that red, right? That's bad.
Yeah, you don't want the red. That's
We
you don't want the
clipping.
red. You want the
So that's when I'll turn my settings down here.
yeah. There we go.
So that's right there, the demonstration of gain.
Right. Yeah. So this is what we had our actors on, and we did a lot of adjusting because some of our actors had great big voices and some of them did not. So they had to be right up on practically kissing the microphone.
Oh.
These are also fairly durable because when I bought these, I had asked the guy, look, I'm going to have people who don't know anything about microphones, and the possibility of things getting kicked over or dropped is a problem. And so this is what they recommended was that this could take a beating and keep going. And I still have their P120s, and the brand just completely escaped. AKG? AGK.
Probably
That sounds about right,
Yeah, yeah, that's what we're using now.
AGK.
Right.
AKG.
AGK.
It's
No, it's
AKG.
AKG. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
AKG also makes really good saxophone mics, instrumental mics. So as we're talking vocal microphones. Oh, do you have an AKG?
I do.
Oh
I
my
have a
goodness.
Nice.
AKG C214.
Oh, that's a different.
Do
yeah,
I
that's a
envy
different
you?
model. Nice.
So again,
Yeah.
another this one has a very large diaphragm in it. It's really good at picking up subtle performances. This has been mostly used for voice acting work for the video game that I'm working on, and there have been a lot of character takes that the person like gets really up close to the microphone and they're giving these very nuanced, suspicious
Yes.
performances. And then I had similar to what you were talking about. I had somebody who's like screaming because that character is losing their mind, which is exactly what I wanted. But like they were still far away from the mic, and I'm looking at the recording, and immediately it's just I'm like, oh, turn
Yeah.
the settings down. Let's just turn that down right now. And then they give that same screaming performance, and with less gain, this was able to pick up every nuance, even like the little like a whine sound from like your sinuses when you're like really screaming, to like the little bit of like spittle on like that comes out of your mouth. Like everything was picked up because of how big the diaphragm is and how like treated the sound booth was. Everything was able to focus directly into this lovely microphone.
Just to see as an example, all of this waveform, we're just recording from that microphone right now. It picked up all of that. The benefit of that is you're able to get a nice, warm, crisp tone, as opposed to dynamic, where I have to pretty much be right up here to get anything. But that also means if your dog's barking in the other room, it's going to hear it.
Gonna hear it.
If you're breathing, it's going to hear it.
man,
If
well.
you're not treating the walls helps with that. So if you're doing your podcast and you're a remote recording, I fully recommend going dynamic. I know it's a little more frustrating to have to be up on it, but that way you don't get any of that outside noise you can't predict.
And that stuff's hard to take out. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but
in the
like,
software, it's
yeah,
hard.
it's hard.
Yeah.
Like there's some good software out there that you can use to remove noise, but there's only so much you can remove without affecting the vocal take.
Now I'm just curious. We're going to hear what this sounds like.
You get that same screaming performance with less gain. This was able to pick up every nuance, even like the
So you hear how like you get that all that background noise. 'Cause it's trying to strain to hear that microphone, but when you listen to the microphone when Tony was talking.
Because when I bought these,
Sorry.
I had asked the guy, look, I'm gonna have people who don't know anything about microphones and the possibility of thinking.
But see how crisp and clean that is. I'm sorry, that won't happen again.
But also notice, go back to this one with
Yep.
Gabriel's. That mic was way over here.
Yeah.
It was across the table, and it still picked
Still
up
picking them up.
Gabe pretty well.
Yeah.
If you're recording at a table, let's say you're doing an interview with me and Scott, we do not want to use condenser mics because we're just going to pick up a lot of echo.
Oh,
Now,
man.
if you multi-track record, means in the middle I can go ahead and delete everything I don't want, but dynamic is the way to go.
Mhm.
Right, because you're going to get the bleed through of in when we're recording, right? Get the bleed through of the other actors, and
Yeah.
we actually did an evisceration scene,
Mhm.
and we had the actor doing one of these, and
Yep.
at some point he had to be way down there, and we still had to adjust the gain.
Oh no, I've had
That's funny.
Blood Grow Stories was a horror
Yeah.
podcast, and we had some scream queens, so
Right.
I had to turn the gain
Right.
way down and
Yeah.
had them sit back here and go, ah!
Dude, recording screams is incredibly fun. I
It
had
is.
no idea how.
We actually had to put a sign up on the wall.
Yeah.
We're
Or
recording
scream-
screams.
Don't worry.
Nobody's getting hurt. It's
Nobody's
fine.
getting hurt.
Please don't call the cops. Okay, so this is great. I mean, I'm hooked into this. This is what we call an XLR cable. It's a little 3-pin in the back. We have examples up here we can show you if you want. But how do I get this microphone into my computer?
That's a
So
great question.
who are you throwing it to? You want me to go?
Yeah.
All right. So what he's using right now is a USB, is what we call an interface. This one happens to be USB. So it basically takes the signal from the microphone, converts it into digital data, and then brings it into your computer.
Yeah.
That's the really simplified way. Yes. No, there's no dumb questions, but come up to the microphone so the stream can hear you.
So I just plugged my USB.
We need you on the streamer.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
no
yeah,
worries.
you're good.
No dumb question, Tom. So I just plugged my mic right into my computer USB.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yep.
We're getting
Yeah. So the baseline idea is that like your computer has a sound card in it, and that's just a better sound card. Is sort of the idea. Like
Yeah.
it's able to take all the priority of what a sound card needs, and do that instead, type of thing. It's like having the big like gamer graphics cards type of thing. It's like replacing that, or you can use the one that comes stock on your motherboard.
Right.
Don't do that.
You can plug your mic directly into your motherboard, but and it's a very complicated thing. But basically, most sound cards are not able to handle the sound pressure level from a microphone direct into the sound card. That's why you have something like this, where again, it's converting the sound pressure level and electrical energy into ones and zeros digital for computers.
Yeah.
And what this gentleman said here, if you want to bring up this one, this is a USB mic. Okay, this one actually has both, so it has XLR connection and it also has USB connection. And these have been a rise in popularity over the past 5 years because they're just a very simplified version of the interface.
Because it works well. Like it will get you there if your goal is to just record some good audio.
Yeah,
type of thing.
if you're streaming, it's
Yeah, if
very
you're
popular
streaming.
among streamers because you just plug in and boom, you got audio. A lot of them now come with really good software for EQing, compression, and really dialing
like
in the
that
sound.
one does. I know
Yeah.
that the Shure that you're holding right there has its own preamp compressor and
Right.
EQ all built into it.
So it's the same concept. It's just how much flexibility you want.
Yeah, so this is an PreSonus Audio Box USB 96. There's other versions that you can get. This is a little 2-input, so you can plug in 2 different inputs. It has gain control in the front. There's a little red light that's right here that says 48V. That's what we call phantom power, 48 volts. It's the ghost. It's sending power to specifically a condenser mic. So that Audio Technica needs that 48 volts of power. Sometimes you need phantom power on a microphone, and that's why you need the audio box that can provide it. This microphone right here that Scott was talking about is a Shure MV7. This is my favorite. It's a dynamic microphone that does XLR or USB. So I'm plugging this into an audio board. I can do that, or I can come in USB, has its own onboard software. I love Shure, as you can see by the sticker. Their hardware is great and in the
Sure
live
you do.
world, and then they've gotten better with the by pivoting to also have remote. So
Shure is one of the longest running microphone brands out there. They're world. That's why I say, like, you see this microphone, you instantly think SM58.
Yeah.
Which is a Shure product. It's not. This mic isn't Shure, but it's based off it.
sure, right?
They're trendsetters.
What was the PreSonus model again?
Ooh.
Audio Box USB 96. It's a 2-channel.
Yeah.
I know they have upgrades from this. I probably bought this about 5 years ago, but it's a workhorse. So any of the audio PreSonus ones are great. Another good one is Focusrite Scarlett. If you probably seen that as an audio device, they do really, really well as
Yeah,
well.
If you see like the little red boxes, we
Focusrite,
actually have
slam
one
dunk.
in Galleria 7 by our tech table. You can see.
Do you use any?
I use we go into a Behringer. Well, we were going to a Behringer
Okay.
mixer from there.
Yeah, a lot of these they're just audio interfaces. You can
Right.
find them. Go USB. The good thing
So-
about having the XLR is you can plug in your guitar. Let's say.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, and
Yeah.
just to talk about mixers, you
Right.
can probably see the mixer board over on the tech table over here.
Right.
That's also a USB interface. That's actually plugged into the Apple computer in the back, and it's recording multi-track. So we have up to 12 channels of audio that we can play with. So that's really good.
Which is generally far more than you'll need. For
It's
an
generally-
audio
yeah,
channel.
this is
You're
for-
not going to need. Yeah.
this is for obviously for conventions and stuff.
Right.
But if you're recording a band, and you need 8 to 12 inputs. Yeah,
Right,
and there's
yeah,
other there's so many products out there. We're just talking about some of the main ones.
Right. And the Behringer one that we used was a 4-channel XLR Phantom Power
Yep.
with you had the 3 EQ options.
Yeah.
But generally we kept those flat, but we'll talk about that later.
Ooh,
Yeah,
also,
you're talking like the small mixer.
Yeah.
Right.
very quick. I just want to toss this out to the audience. Because again, we're all audio professionals. We've been doing this for a long time. If at any point anyone in the audience is like, they just said a million letters, I don't know what's going on, please feel free to like raise your hand, say, hey,
Yeah,
can you
stop
repeat
us.
that?
Yeah. We're using a lot of jargon.
Because
and
jargon's cool, jargon's fun. Jargon is also,
that's how we communicate.
it's like soft gatekeeping. So we don't want it to be
Right.
that. We want you to be able to communicate with this language as well.
Yeah. The hope that is if you have any specific question on your end too, that we want to make sure we answer those as well. So if we're kind of
Yes.
going through something, you go like, that's a lot. I have to teach students as well, and sometimes it gets overwhelming. But at the end of the day, they get a basic understanding, so it helps.
Yeah. The whole goal here is understanding. Oh, we have a hand up. Oh, could you come say that into the microphone right here so we can get it on the stream?
which is a wireless option.
Hey.
There you go.
I do podcast interviews,
Mhm.
remote settings,
Mhm.
and we're looking for wireless options as opposed to everyone running lapel mics
Yep.
across the room.
So that right there is a wireless option. I think that's a Shure wireless. mic.
Sure, SM58.
It's not an SM58. It's just shaped like
Yeah.
one. The model's on there.
Somewhere.
There are dozens of wireless options out there. There's a lot. There's a big. Some of the new ones. I can't think of what it's called. Rode has them where they're like
Mhm.
mini microphones, and they just come with like these little tiny receivers.
Yep.
Those things, and a lot of them have actual, I think, memory cards on them, so you don't even need the interface. You can just record it.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing.
Question.
Sorry, we have people on stream, so we want them to be able to hear the questions in case there's any that get, we can help some people who's going to watch this.
Why is the I guess the SM7B, it's the $400 Shure mic with a flat bottom on it.
Yeah.
Why is that preferred when the SM58 is a quarter of the price? What's their motive?
So
Great question.
oof,
What is their motive?
You can start
Indeed.
You can start a whole.
Thank you.
That's a whole that's a whole different conversation.
And the MV7 uses a similar similar direction, and it's also cheaper
So-
than
No,
that.
do
But-
not apologize. It's a great question.
Yeah, we're-
absolutely.
The answer for the most part is money. I'll just throw that one out really quick. But there are subtle nuances.
Well, there are, mics do have each have their own characteristics.
Yeah.
This SM7B especially was very popular with radio, voiceover work and things like that because it captures a lot more than just your typical SM58,
Mhm.
which tends to sound a little bit thinner because we're talking like isolated audio. So not like in the room here where we're just trying to fill the room, but for like specifically for podcasting, for voice actors.
Yeah.
And there are absolutely more expensive options out there. I always recommend start with start with $100 USB or $100, not even like the 57s. I think the 58s are like $99. Always start lower than what you think you need, and then you can always upgrade.
Right. And I just want to say, because you're going to look at some for audio drama folks, you're going to look at some production houses that are doing monstrous things. If you look at Big Finish, you can't afford what Big Finish can afford. I mean, maybe you can, probably not though. You're not going to be able to afford that. You're probably not going to put a whisper room in your house right off the bat. So what the point is clear, clean signal,
Mhm.
right? Whatever your budget is going to let you do that clear, clean signal with some caveats that we're going to talk about today,
Mhm.
that's what you go with. And then build up, like Scott said, from that point.
Yeah, and it's also like knowing what you want in the end, like what kind of end result you want. Because if you need that nuance, then you'll have to probably spend a little extra money to get that nuance. But if you really don't need that nuance, because I had a whole conversation with someone who was purchasing microphones, but is not an audio person, and they were like, "Why?" Like, I listened to this one, and it sounds almost exactly the same, and I'm like, "Yes, it will sound almost exactly the same." There is specific uses where it will be more flexible and more powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, if all you really need it to do is this 75% of its capability, well, there are other mics that can do that 75% of its capability.
I wish we had.
For
For a
instance,
budget. At a budget
this
level.
AKG C214 is the budget version of the C414. And by I say budget difference, this one is a $400 to $500 mic, and the C414 is an $800 to $900 mic. The main difference is that this one has, and well, I'm sure we'll get more into these later, possibly, but like it has one what's it called, cardioid
Pickup patterns.
yeah, one pickup pattern, which is a cardioid. It essentially it just picks up. It's like a sort of heart shape. If you're behind it, it's not going to pick up very well. If you're in front of it or slightly next to it, it's going to pick up and attenuate the further or get softer the closer you get to the edge.
And generally, more expensive mics will have more options to
Yeah.
switch that.
The C414, you can switch between, I think it's like 5 different polarity patterns and things like that, and pick up like different kinds of vocal performances, even ones where it's like you have 2 people facing each other, but it will still isolate their
Yeah,
sound
which
from one
is-
to the other.
And all this to say, like, that's complete overkill for a home recording.
Exactly.
You know,
There's no
that's
reason.
that's a high level studio mic that
Right.
they're gonna, that they've got the budget for, and they're bringing in.
yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
You
well, there
can.
go.
You can.
You
actually.
can, and we
Yeah.
will tell you how. Maybe.
So just one more thing, and then off this topic, I promise.
Yes, please.
When people listen to your audio dramas, they're not gonna care what kind of microphone you did. What they're gonna care is this a good story, right? So it's gonna come down to your story and your actors, right? So writing and casting, in my opinion, are gonna be far more important than what you spend on your gear to get that story out.
Oh,
And I'm done, I
100%.
promise.
I'll say the biggest ability is
hundo.
availability. Whatever you have to go ahead and use, and then you'll know, oh wow, if I use the Blue Yeti condenser microphone, it picks up my dog barking. So maybe I should go dynamic.
Right.
But if you have the ability to listen, then you get it's just like training. You learn a little bit the whole way. But that's right. Nobody really cares what you're recorded with as long as what your content is.
As
And-
long as
and
it's not a snowball.
And as long as it sounds good.
Right.
Like,
yeah, because you forgive you like with a movie, right? You can forgive bad lighting, but you're never going to forgive bad audio.
Yeah, and that's for any, especially the streamers out there or the people who want to stream. Get your audio right first. You can run off a $20, Amazon webcam, but you can't run off of a crappy $20 Amazon microphone.
Right.
It's going to sound like crap, and no one is going to want to hang
It
there.
does sound uniquely terrible. Yeah.
It really
Uniquely
does.
terrible. Uniquely terrible. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yes. You have another question.
Looks like we
Yeah.
have a stream queue.
I have a question from the stream. That's kind of related to
Oh,
that.
heck yeah.
We have someone who specifically uses Logic Pro and iPad and is wanting to know what the best presets are for recording voice.
Ooh.
Like if you would recommend the stock compressor or any ways to make it sound more professional.
Absolutely. Actually.
Do you want to use that to pivot to you pulling up
Software?
Logic?
Yeah. So I use for the podcast Quid Pro Roll, I primarily use, we record in Audacity, but because everybody records remote, I'm not going to make them get proprietary software. And then they send me their audio, and I put it all into Logic. But I have recorded directly into Logic many times. I mean, when you are just recording the audio, like purely recording it, very few times do you need any settings when you're just recording. Now, obviously, when you want to treat it after the recording, that can be incredibly helpful for a lot of things.
So what Gabe's talking about is a term we use called dry
Yeah.
versus wet.
What?
So a dry signal is just as little processing as possible. So
Yeah.
just the microphone into the interface into
Are you going to pass
the
me a cable?
into the software. Whereas a wet signal is going to have EQ, compression, maybe some reverb, depending on what
Let's see if this
what
works.
the sound design is.
I'm gonna plug it into this first.
Okay. So typically you don't want to print effects as you're coming in. And this is more of an older school recording thing. Most
Please
now is
don't
just
break.
you add the software in later.
Hey,
Uh,
don't look at my
so
files.
yeah, right. Gabe's bringing up Logic Pro right now,
Hey,
which is Apple only.
yes, and that's what I was saying. Proprietary software. It's the cool thing about Logic Pro. If you already own an Apple product, Logic Pro is just as powerful as most of the other like big swinging digital audio workstations out there. But because it only works on Mac, it's like $100 to $300, depending on where you're going, dollars cheaper. Because again, it only works on Mac. So like Mac's gonna be like, I mean, you want to use our software, right?
I think it's usually about $200.
Yeah, it's like $200. There. Oh, hey.
Oh,
There you go.
go.
They have a student
Hey.
bundle. If you have Apple, if
Apple,
you're in that,
don't listen to that.
if you're in that ecosystem, then you know. And I've used Logic Pro before, more for music. That's a good thing about it.
Yeah.
It comes with a lot of good virtual instruments and software. So if you're doing music,
So
It's good for that.
really quick before we get to your question, about the question about condensers. Can anybody see this? Cool. Heck yeah. So there's a handful. The stock compressor on Logic is very powerful because it is for the most part pretty gentle. You can do crazy stuff with it, but it's for the most part it's a very gentle compressor. Has a lot of really great presets. One of the most simple things you can do though with this compressor, and I'll just pull up a brand new one, mono compressor for recording vocals. If you want a nice clean take, the thing that I can always recommend is making sure the auto gain is off, because that's sort of like, if it's really quiet, it's going to just boost it up. But again, if you just want a clean take, you don't need that extra energy. You can put that extra energy
it's
input
like
gain.
auto gain is like someone doing this.
Yeah.
The entire time.
It's thinking about it for you. It's not quite AI, but it's in that realm. But you can just bring your own gain up, and then bring that compressor ratio up. And if you already know about compressors, you know about ratios. But the idea there, I'll be very, very quick with this, is that like it's the ratio of how much it compresses or lowers the loud parts of your audio within a ratio. So like for every one decibel that goes above this, it will drop it by 2
Above the threshold.
Or in this case, I have it at a 1:4 ratio. 1:4 ratio is still actually pretty gentle, especially with this thing. And then you just want a quick attack, quick release, and that's it. Everything else, like you can go extra, but for the most part, that will get you some nice, clean, clear vocals.
And most of the DAWs that the DAW is meaning digital audio workstation. We'll go into that, but most of them come with their own stock plugins, which for the most part will get you there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to, don't get sucked into spending a ton of money on plugins.
Right.
Yes.
What's the best way to, like, whether it's Logic, Cakewalk, whatever, what's the best way to learn your DAW? Like,
YouTube.
YouTube
YouTube.
videos. There's a lot of editors who do
Yeah.
YouTube videos.
You can learn
I'll say
anything on YouTube.
It's a combination. It's YouTube, and it's also just working with it.
Yeah, I was gonna
playing
say
with
the thing that I try to do with Logic a lot is, if I have like a span of time that I don't have a specific project that I'm actively working on, I will hear things and I'm like, let me see how I can recreate that. Like I specifically created a vocal preset that I actually wound up using on the podcast. That was like, I really love the vocal effects in the Venom movie. Let me see if I can remake that. And I did a lot of really bad attempts, but I have one at the end that I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And then I used that later. But yeah, it's like just going through and just playing with stuff. Careful not to cook your computer in the process. David, another question.
Hey,
How's that?
hey, hello.
Howdy.
I've made some content and posted it, and my audience loves it.
Woo!
But
All right.
I have Tourette syndrome,
Very
so noises like that,
Uh-huh.
I make them all the time,
Mhm.
and I can't control it, and I feel really bad about it. I get some comments where they're like, "Yeah, this is great, but there was a noise you kept making the whole time. Maybe you were sick or something."
Yeah.
So, what can I do about that?
Ooh,
So
that's a handful of things.
compression does help there. Actually, I can, if you want to pull
Yeah.
that back to me, I can do a little bit something. So I do this with a lot of my editing. I have built in I use Adobe Audition. I'm an Adobe guy.
Yeah.
I've used
Boo.
Adobe. Yeah, I know.
I mean, boo.
Yeah, subscription. I get it. The downside with Adobe is all their products are a monthly subscription, but any updates that they do it at the time. So what you can do is figure out where those noises live in your waveform, and then do a compressor to figure out everything below -20 decibels. Let's say we're going to cut out.
So
You don't want to go too aggressive with it, because if you do, you're going to lose some of the fidelity of your voice.
Yeah.
But that's how I cut out a lot of people doing like.
Right.
So doing that, let's see if I can get an example of the audio we
and
literally
some of that honestly just comes down to you just have to if you're doing like what are you doing? Are you doing a
Live
show,
stream?
a podcast, or
Right now, I'm just creating videos and putting them on YouTube.
okay?
But we want to do podcasting, and that's more live. So I'm going to be making the noise when it happens.
Live. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's only so much you can do before it affects your normal speaking voice. Again, what Anthony's talking about is using compression to create. It also can be a limiter, where
Yeah,
if it
or
goes
yeah.
over a certain threshold,
A noise gate.
Yeah, the right term is noise gate.
noise
limiter.
gate. But
Okay.
the problem with that is the noise gate will open and close, because basically once you go over a certain point, it opens up. Once you're under, it closes it up. So sometimes you get the sound of like when you open a door outside, and you get all the
Yeah.
outside noise, and then you close the door and it's inside noise.
Yeah. And it gets quieter.
It's kind of like that.
So here's some audio from the podcast Pod by the Bay Air Examiner. Like and subscribe. So they're talking.
The Bethune-Cookman University Wildcats.
So we got that little
So-
background noise right there.
And this is a good thing about I will say about Adobe Audition is it has very powerful audio cleanup tools.
Yeah, it does. That's true.
If you're willing to pay the premium for it,
Upwards in that forensic audio realm.
yeah.
So I got it for -35 decibels. So anything that's in that range kind of will be pulled out. So for example,
Can you play that with and without?
so this is with it, also known as dry. I'm not sure. I'll pump it. It's just kind of like some background noise.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right. You heard that? You heard the little
Little
something saying something there.
Charlie Brown's.
And this
feature
is
in
with
the
my
background.
dynamics for this particular show. So I still have a little bit that's there, but the majority of it got kind of pulled out.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to edit. Just because you record it live doesn't mean it has to be live. I can't tell you how many breaths and hus and ums and uhs and
Or
all
actually-
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That you have to edit it out, and if you're planning on doing like a live stream or a more live setting, tell the audience.
Yeah, I was
Be like,
that
hey, this is a thing.
if it's if it's live, like I think that the best thing would just like be to let people know, like, hey, this is going to be a thing. Because if the sounds that you don't want to be on the stream are going to be of a similar loudness level to your talking voice, then that is something that like it's going to be really difficult to gate that out.
Right.
Yeah, pop filters
Yeah,
and
that's it.
and de-essers are really powerful for that. Essentially, they like listen ahead. What those wind up doing is they give an actual slight delay to your performance. So there's going to be like a couple milliseconds delay, but it listens to what's happening, and it will like, oh, this person did a really loud s into their mic, and that doesn't sound great. So it actually made it a little bit quieter on that S sound or that T sound. And so that can be,
Sibilance.
yeah, it can take out the sibilance.
Sibilance.
A de-esser might be something if you want to look into those. Play with the settings. When I play with settings, I usually try to turn them up to a ridiculous amount
And
and then pull it back until it sounds reasonable.
and then
But-
kind of piggybacking on that, because I believe the stream question was like, what's the best preset? There is no best preset. The best preset is the preset that works for you.
Oh, that's so well said.
So
I love that.
always be playing with it. If you find a setting that's good, roll with that for a while.
Yeah,
Listen back.
I do like the
You know-
narration vocal preset though. I will say it works well for my voice.
Preset is great to start with.
Yeah.
Like a preset, like don't let people say don't use presets. Use the presets there. They're there for a reason. But as you learn, you can adjust that preset that more fits your voice or what style you're trying to get.
Yeah.
The style of the show.
Adobe Audition, again, these are all kind of presets that they have with their on board. Podcast Voice is one that they build. It even has like a denoiser, which is nice.
Mhm.
As you see, I have 4 different ones based on the different shows that I'll work on. So 4 is my favorite. So that denoiser also will help get rid of some of that. So all of that's pretty much gone. For me, it's
Spicy.
Brett's. I'm not a fan of hearing Brett's. I'm not sure how it is in audio drama.
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah.
No.
It's like unless it's supposed to sound exasperated or
breaths.
something. Yeah.
Unless you're running or something, right?
So playing with a noise gate to answer that brief question at the back. Next one.
Hi. So when getting started, is it best to put more money into your microphone up front or into a workstation if you have to choose either or when it comes to available monies?
So
And thinking that, let's say you're starting a podcast and you're not really sure if you're really going to like it, you just have this really good idea that you want to do it. Is it going to last? Is it going to get traction? Where should the money go? Into a microphone or into the software?
Well, so
That's a
my
great
answer to
question, yeah.
that is there's a lot of good, inexpensive software
Mhm.
that has a low learning curve. Adobe is great, but it has an Adobe learning curve to it.
This
Reaper
one,
is also good, but it also has an Adobe learning curve to it. Just not as dramatic. People will
Sure.
put Audacity down, but I could put Audacity in front of someone who's not looked at anything before, and they can work through doing one of these.
Audacity. Also, just really quick, just
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
to get on the Audacity hype train.
Sure.
Audacity recently did an update. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it was like 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just they added so many amazing features to it.
Yeah.
That like everything from like full MIDI control to
Right.
like on instruments to being able to move like audio through the timeline more effectively. Audacity for freeware
Is incredible.
so powerful.
It does, yeah. So
Crazy powerful.
I would say to your question, it would probably be the hardware would be
Yeah.
where your cost should be.
and even
Because
then,
you do have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I cut you off.
Okay. Because you do have the freeware option, the powerful freeware option for software.
This is Adobe. This is Audacity freeware. It's a great way to start and kind of get your feet wet and learning how to do audio editing and working on
One of my
repair and
favorites.
everything like that, recording in there. It's super easy to use. It's a lot of resources
Right.
and it's free.
Forever.
And
It's
I
not
would
like you don't have to.
Totally free.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely free forever.
And I would also say, like, don't spend a lot on your microphone. Get it good for if you're just doing a solo thing or you just want to talk into a microphone and get something down and maybe work out some ideas. You can get a good USB microphone for $100 to $200.
Yeah.
That's going to get you.
Yeah.
That's going to get you up. That's going to get you running. Now, if you decide like, okay, I want to bring on a co-host, then you got to figure out, well, okay, do I need an interface with 2 inputs or are they recording remotely? Can they get a USB microphone? And then
Mhm.
that's, you can grow exponentially from there and you can always sell equipment and trade up and stuff like that.
It's a good question.
Great question.
Next question, please.
I have a 2-part question. If you're recording a short film, I'm wondering what levels do you target as a mixer? As far as do you go for like maximum -3 or something?
Mm.
And then along with that, as an editor or when you're publishing it, what levels do you target?
That's actually a really good question. You said specifically for film type of thing? Okay.
So in general, when you're recording just anything, if you want to, can you bring up Audacity again? Or no, no, and just turn on the microphone. Sure.
Yeah. Anywhere we can see that little.
Yeah,
levels.
I want to give it because it's hard to describe. It's kind of you got to see it. Okay.
Check 1, 2. Check. Check.
So it may
These
be
are
hard
pretty
to see, but the little lines there, you typically want to shoot for kind of in the yellow, in the early yellow.
Yes. Low yellow is the goal.
Minus 16 to 18 dB typically, because you want to leave that headroom if they get loud.
And here's because if I get loud, you see the red light on my microphone's also going. That's what we call clipping. And then
Right.
look at the waveform. It's wild. How am I supposed to edit that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it when people like yell or it's like,
Yeah. So, kind of you want to in this kind of yellow area when it's just after green and it's going into the yellow.
Yeah.
That's typically your safe point. Because every mic indicator has looks different. So you have to learn how it looks. Well, not learn how it looks, but understand what you're getting.
Yeah. It's definitely a because for film, especially, you're going to want a dynamic range, but and I think someone else said this earlier that when you're doing a production that has visuals, you need the audio to be consistent. So you still want to get everything within that yellow range type of thing.
And that's just good rule of thumb. Not just for video, but for any recording.
Yeah, I was doing classical
good
music.
audio is good audio. If you get good audio on a podcast, you can get good audio for film. You can get good audio for anything else. These are basic techniques we're talking.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, when it comes to podcasts, this is a slight pivot from film, but there's a measurement called LUFS, loudness units full scale.
Love those
It's
LUFS.
industry standard for measuring perceived loudness. I kind of put up what Google is. You kind of want to be between. I actually export to -16, which gets you to a nice little spot. That's not decibels, that's LUFS. And I'll actually show you. You can do that easily in Audition. So there's a match loudness setting, and this helps, especially if you have a single track or multi-track recording and everyone's levels are all over. I can go and upload something. It'll tell me okay, that's at -18. Let's go ahead and run it, and then it'll push to -16. Oh, it's because I'm recording. That's why it won't let me do it. But so that's another measurement when you're doing recorded audio. That's just a slight pivot from film.
Yeah.
But yes, as long as you're not clipping, because if you're clipping and we'll hear it, you get a very distorted sound. So it took that and it brought it down to what -16 loose would be. But as you see, that line is very cut because of how it was clipped. So I'll try not to blow everyone's ears out. That's what we call clipping. And then look at the waveform. It's wild. How am I supposed to edit that? Hear how that's very distorted. So even though I brought that level down, the gain structure, as you brought up, is so morphed, we get distorted audio.
Yeah.
Next question.
Hey, so a lot of the chat seems to be focused around dry captures and then editing later. But in streaming, you don't really have that luxury, right? So how do you? I can understand applying noise gates and compressors, but what else do you need to bring in to make good audio for streaming?
That's a good question.
That is a question.
Not much, honestly. Again, it's like Tony said earlier. You want good, clean audio without a ton of noise in the background.
So really quick to clarify with this question, do you mean are you streaming just people talking, a discussion or playing video games, or are you streaming something that's more a nuanced performance? I'll repeat it for
go
the
ahead.
stream.
Well, just I guess first for just the
Okay, good.
Yeah. So if
Yes.
Discussion.
Yeah. So for discussion, then yes, please continue.
So if you're talking about Twitch streaming, or Kick or whatever else you want to use, the same rules apply. You want good, clean audio, low levels of noise. You can add the gating in just to help reduce the noise. If you have a GeForce RTX 30 series card, they come with noise reduction, AI noise reduction. That's really, really good. There's other options out there. The biggest thing is just keeping the noise down, keeping outside noise down, and then getting good, clean audio, not only from your microphone, but from your source. So if you're playing a video game, you don't want the video game turned up to 11 and blowing everybody's ears out. You want to do what we call you can do side gain compression, you set up audio ducking. So when you're talking, it ducks the audio of the game down or whatever, or video or whatever you're doing.
Yeah. That's really good.
That's really the biggest thing, is the balance between your voice and your game or video.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Twitch also, when you're streaming live, compresses your audio a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes if you want to get too much into the EQ, you don't want to get too much into the EQ because it's going to double it up at that point. So that's when having just really solid hardware helps.
Yeah.
And so like that's where it kind of goes back to.
And you can
what's going
see
on.
here like just how much gain he's got. He's got an auto level function, different EQ curves. A lot of these USB microphones come with really powerful software that's going to help clean up your audio like super quick. That'll get you going.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and also gives you a little EQ curve.
Yeah.
We'll try to touch on that in a second, but let's get these last questions in.
Yeah.
So a while back, I had a buddy of mine. I was mixing and remastering one of the tracks he made for funsies, and the vocals, let's just say they sounded wild, if you get my drift. How would I clean that up? I did the best I
Wild
could.
as far as pitch?
No, I meant
Or
because
like-
that when you said the clip of wild illustrating distortion,
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
sounded
Oh,
just
yeah.
like that. How do I fix that?
You can make audio louder. You can't make it
right.
Yeah, because that's affecting the quality. So when it's super distorted, and that's a settings thing. So it's like it's hard to do
After the
in
fact.
post.
Yeah.
There's,
Right.
there's a lot
Very
you
hard
can
to
do
do,
if
but-
it's too small. I always tell people go lower. I can bring you up. Obviously, if you're talking like this, that mic's not picking up anything. But I'd rather them be like this than when they're screaming, because then it's distorted. Like you heard the wild part. There's not much we can really do about it.
Yeah.
Even if you put a compressor or anything, because that's the physical quality you receive.
So
And a lot of that's
nothing to say there.
educating whoever it is. You have to
Yeah.
educate your client, your actor,
Yeah.
on what they need to do. Like a lot of tech talk up here that an actor's going to go,
What does that mean?
sure,
Mhm. Yeah.
and then they're going to read it however they want to read it.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
mean, I used to tell them, look, if you're going to scream, you need to sit way back here, and then we would still have to do, give me your scream so I can see what it looks like,
Yeah.
and then do your scream again, and don't change your scream. So there's a lot of pre-work that went into getting that scream good to go. So yeah, because you can't adjust it once it's distorted.
He handed it to me a couple of weeks later. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then-
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And if it's that bad, re-record it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's the
it
only
depends.
option.
You can do the best you can. I work with a lot of corporate clients who will use Microsoft Teams or Zoom and their AirPods, and then I do the best I can. And I send them back, and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't sound like NPR." I'm like, "Well, you used AirPods,
Well, you right. Exactly.
and you didn't use headphones, so I got a lot of echo. So that's what you get."
You use your webcam mic. Like,
Yeah.
there's not much I can do about it.
And corporate folks are also great for, hi, welcome today.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
Yeah,
They love that.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
no
No, you're
worries.
good.
But yeah, it's unfortunate. Sometimes you have to do a reshoot, or a record. Sometimes you just have to kind of say, "This is the best I got." But
Garbage in is garbage out.
Yeah.
If you get bad audio in, you get bad audio out. You can only polish a turd so much. That's why that's why we're stressing get good audio on the way
On the
in.
first, right.
You
Yeah,
can do
client
a
training
lot
is
more.
powerful.
You can do a lot more with lower audio, but that's good quality, than you can with louder audio that's bad quality.
And if there's any people in the audience that are really fascinated with cool audio technology and stuff like that, look into the 32-bit float recording. It's a really fascinating thing. It's not super useful all the time, but in instances like that, if you happen to be able to do it, you can essentially recover clipped performances because of how it uses the compression system. But it's you need a specific microphone, specific interface, and a specific software to do it. Now there's a lot of options within there, but you do need to know that whole system. But it's really cool if you're really into that.
Some of the newer Zoom recorders, not like the H4, although the H4 is a great one. I recommend anyone use that. There are some newer ones now that are very small for individual recordings that have what's called the 32-bit float. But those are also, I think, $300 or $400 devices. So if you're doing a lot of field recording, that's might be something you want to look into because it basically gives you a lot more headroom to play with.
I think the most budget one that I found is a $200 NT17 something.
Yeah.
But again, it's just if you like that stuff, look into it because it's not the most practical tech at the moment.
We have 5 more minutes. I want to try to do these last 2 questions and show you one last thing. But
Yeah.
Come forward.
Okay. So because I had the money and when I question people, they're like, oh yeah, go Shure SM7B. It's perfect for what you want. So I went
Sometimes.
because again, I
Yeah.
had the money with the Go XLR.
Okay.
My issue is I have my low tones, but I also have my very high pitched shrieky tones when I'm greeting people in my streams or when I get jump scared and I scream. And the majority of all the YouTube videos that I have found that teach you how to set up your Go XLR are men with very deep voices, which doesn't help me. But also because I also do voices, it makes it complicated because I can do a lot of shrieky kid voices. So because of my setup, I have to keep everything at my desk, which is my stream room. So, and if I want to record, if I want to stream, and now I'm being requested to do a podcast, I need to have like the ultimate system here. What would be your suggestions for the Go XLR? Keep it, ditch it? How do I make it to where it's universal, I guess, for the things I need?
So I don't have experience with the Go XLR specifically. I generally try not to say ditch hardware because there's got to be a workaround that you can get through. Do you do any EQ with your microphone or with your settings to try to compensate?
I've worked with using the YouTube videos that I found. I found one that was like the closest for me. But it still feels like it's falling short. Like they went into depth to explain like, oh, you can go to this specific setting in the Go XLR
the
program. And if you do this, it's going to do this. If you do this, it's going to do this. You're going to have to play with it to find it for your voice. But it's still very difficult for me to understand. Audio has been the thorn in my side for the last 5 years.
Oh, totally.
Welcome to the club.
What I will say is we're here. So obviously we don't have a lot of time to get into EQ a bunch. Feel free to reach out with any questions you have on any of our platforms. What I will say is I'm showing a parametric equalizer right here. For all voice, it's what we call a high pass filter. The human ear can't hear anything lower than 150 hertz. So you always want to get rid of that so you don't get any of that audio. And a lot of times that helps boost kind of that like low end and whatnot. But what you can also do is go to the higher end over here and adjust or go down, decrease. So this is where I can do. So you can figure out where in the spectrum. So obviously this is hertz. As it goes to 1K, it's kilohertz, and you can increase what you want to try to get a little bit more of that warmth and clarity in your voice. And of course, everything under 100, you can just it's called killing or boosting. You can just kill because the human ear can't hear that.
And you may honestly just want to look at a different microphone.
Yeah, that's
it. I hate to say that, but sometimes that is the answer because the Shure SM7B is it's for a very specific range. And if you're doing like more higher range stuff and squealing and screaming and stuff like that, you might want to go with something like a condenser microphone, and just play with the settings a bit more because they tend to be more cleaner on the high end.
A result of the unfortunate sexism in the broadcasting industry.
Yes,
where they're like, we only have deep voices out
There's
here.
only men out there.
Yeah.
Basically said, oh, this one's best for your voice, but that's the Cadillac of mics, so go Rode, NT, whichever one.
Yeah.
Let's talk to us more after the panel.
Yeah, because I have a lot of experience mixing higher voices. So yes.
Cool. Last question.
All right. Since I found myself in this particular situation, for anybody who cannot use traditional microphones, is this a good place to ask for lav recommendations?
Probably from these people.
Sennheiser.
Yeah,
I tend to avoid lavs like the plague. Honestly, I'm not a fan of them. But if you're going for like a wireless lav, Sennheiser's good. Shure's good.
Rode as well.
Oh, lavalier. So usually they're called lapel mics. You'll see them in you'll see like a CEO having like something clipped on his tie.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why I hate them. They're good. Films use them a lot to catch the actors' scenes and everything like that.
They kind of follow the function of like the shotgun mic kind of thing, where like it's very directed, and some of the best ones are going to be so like specifically that reference is like this one you can still hear me over here, but it's softer. But like the polarity pattern for a shotgun mic is going to be almost a perfect straight line. So if I'm not in that line at all, which is where lav mics can sometimes get pretty frustrating because it's like the person moved their jacket significantly, and you're like, no,
Right.
God.
Yeah. You hear all the clothing rattle. Right?
Yeah. Or they do something that like folds under their lapel, and you're like, that's the opposite of what
That's-
you're
yeah,
supposed to
you're
do.
supposed
I'm listening to your stomach now.
Right.
No.
Well, I super appreciate all the questions. This is great. I'm glad that we're able to talk about that. Unfortunately, we're out of time. But if you like the panel, please go into the DragonCon app, rate it 5 stars. We will try to come back again next year to do this more.
Maybe do a longer one.
Do a longer one so we can actually do a workshop to kind of talk more about this. In any case, I am Anthony Vito at Anthony Vito _ podcast producer, Split Zone Duo, Bayer Examiner, a bunch of other podcasts, including internal and external. Find me anywhere, or I'm also volunteering for the DragonCon Digital Media Track, so you can come find me here.
Tony Srecchia, Tony the Scribe, everywhere. Get a ribbon. You can find me wherever on online.
Scott Moore at Groove is for Life. You can find me around the basement all weekend. I'm also a volunteer.
And Gabriel Perez at Amethyst Audiomancer on Instagram. And I also have a Bandcamp out now that I put a lot of the music from Quid Pro Roll is going to be on there that I produce. So,
and feel free to come and talk to us after the panel.
Yeah, ask me things about this weird technology.
I'll be on the horror track. Sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm
Enjoy
not here.
DragonCon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.